Please join me in welcoming President Joe Biden.
Thank you, brother. Well, I tell you what, Detroit's making some really hot vehicles. They even got a Hummer that can go 4.1, 0 to 60. That's faster than my Corvette. Now, my Corvette's older than I am almost. But what I realize is that my Corvette's now worth a hell of a lot more than when I bought it. I got it original, $5,700. They tell me it's worth a lot of money. But I know if I ever sell it, Bo will come down from heaven and smite me down. But anyway, and by the way, that new Corvette, that's electric Corvette, I got a commitment that I don't think I'm going to be able to enforce, that I get to buy the first one because it's going to be out before I'm out of office. So, anyway, look, folks, Chuck, you've done a hell of a job. You really have. You really have. And Speaker Pelosi, you always get it done. You always get it done. Come hell or high water, you get it done. And I want to thank Secretary Raimondo. And Josh, thank you for the introduction. Josh loves electric cars. He graduated from Syracuse. He's my kind of guy. What more do you need? Syracuse and electric cars. Look, this bill I'm about to sign into law, in my view, represents what I've always believed. America is the only nation in the world, and I believe this every fiber of my being, the only nation in the world that can be defined, as I've told Xi Jinping several years ago, by a single word. He asked me to define America for him when I was in China, and he and I were alone in the Tibetan Plateau. I said, I can do it in one word, and I mean it. Possibilities. In America, everything is possible. We believe every and anything is possible. It's part of the soul of this country. I mean, it really is. We can channel all our resources. Most of all, we can channel the full talents of all our people into a greater measure of hope and opportunity for our nation and for the world. To create good jobs, empower workers, grow the economy, not just for the wealthy, but grow for everyone. To change the course of human health and disease. To tackle climate crisis with innovation and jobs. To lead the world, this is not hyperbole, lead the world in future industries and protect our national security. We've always gotten it, we haven't always gotten it right, but we've never walked away from that sense of possibility that drives this country. Never. Now, it matters today, I think, more than anything in a very long, long time. You're tired of hearing me say this, those who work with me so closely, but that's because we face an inflection point in our nation and around the world. Fundamental change is taking place today, politically, economically, and technologically. Change that can either strengthen our sense of control and security, of dignity and pride in our lives and our nation, or change that weakens us so the people are left behind, causing them to question whether or not the very institutions, our economy, our democracy itself can still deliver for them, for everybody. This is the moment we face. I really mean this. I believe with every fiber of my being. We hear all the noise out there. We know there are those who focus more on seeking power than securing the future, than securing the future. Those who seek division instead of strength and unity, who tear down rather than build up. Today is a day for builders. Today, America is delivering. And I honest to God believe that 50, 75, 100 years from now, from people who will look back on this week, they'll know that we met this moment. Today I'm signing the law of the Chips and Science Act, a once-in-a-generation investment in America itself, a law that the American people can be proud of. I called for elements of this law when I first came to office. I want to thank everyone here who helped make it possible. Vice President Harris and the second gentleman, members of the Cabinet and the White House team, members of the United States Congress of both parties, Majority Leaders, Senators Cantwell, Young, Portman. I don't want to get you in trouble, but you did a hell of a job. By the way, he's a good man. That's a different story. I just probably cost him. I apologize. All kidding aside, thank you. Thank you, thank you. And along with Senators Cornyn and Wicker, helped keep this bill on track beginning to end. In the House, I thank Speaker Pelosi and Steny Hoyer and Representative Eddie Bernice, God love you. You're sitting there, you're ready, you did it all, you moved. Frank Pallone. I keep reminding Frank he's from New Jersey, but Delaware owns to the high water mark on the shore of New Jersey. We had a court case about that. I just want you to know that. Mike McCall, Doris Matsui, and the man who holds the seat I used to hold, Chris Coons. Look, so many other Democrats and Republicans alike are committed to getting this bill done. And while the bipartisanship in Congress is critical, I also want to acknowledge something else. Look at the people here today. You come from all different backgrounds to support this bill. Governors, like the governor of Illinois who I see, legislators, mayors, state legislators, entrepreneurs, business people, labor. They're the reason why we're here. They're the reason why we got this far. Scientists, technologists, engineers, physicians. Presidents of four-year and community colleges, both. Civil rights leaders, national security leaders, government officials. I met with many of you through this process. So many of you have spent years and years calling for key investments that are made in this bill. For years you've been calling for it. You helped make it happen. You represent why we are better positioned than any other nation in the world to win the economic competition of the 21st century. You're the reason why I'm so optimistic about the future of our country. You know, the CHIPS and Science Act supercharged our efforts to make semiconductors here in America. Excuse me, those tiny computer chips, smaller than a fingertip, that are the building blocks for our modern economy, powering everything from smartphones to dishwashers to automobiles. In fact, there are as many as 3,000 semiconductors per vehicle made today, 3,000 per vehicle. America invented the semiconductors. They powered NASA's mission to the moon. Federal research and development brought down the cost of making them and built a market in an entire industry. As a result, over 30 years ago, America had 40% of the global production of these chips. And then something happened. American manufacturing, the backbone of our economy, was hollowed out. We let semiconductor manufacturing go overseas. And as a result, today, we barely produce 10% of the semiconductors, excuse me, despite being the leader in chips design as well as research. And as we saw during the pandemic, when factories that make these chips shut down, the global economy comes to a screeching halt, driving up costs for families and everyone, not just here, but around the world. 1/3 of the core inflation last year was due to the higher price for automobiles and a shortage of semiconductors. Folks, we need to make these chips here in America to bring down everyday costs and create jobs. Don't take my word for it. Listen to some of the business leaders here today and across the country. They're making decisions right now about where to invest and ramp up production for these semiconductors. Many are foreigners making investments, companies deciding where in the world to go, and they've chosen the United States of America. They look at China, Japan, South Korea, the European Union, all making historic investments of billions of dollars to attract the businesses to their countries to produce these chips. But these industry leaders also see America is back and leading the way. During my State of the Union, I described the field of dreams on 1,000 acres outside of Columbus, Ohio, where America's future will be built. Intel, whose CEO is here today, Pat Gelsinger, is here today. He's going to break ground in the next generation semiconductor factory in central Ohio early this fall. American company Micron is announcing today that because of this law, it's going to invest $40 billion over 10 years to build factories and special chips called memory chips that store information on your smartphone. Investment. This investment alone is going to create 40,000 jobs. Excuse me, I'm sorry, and increase market share in memory chips by 500%. 2 more American companies. I want to take another sip of water. 2 other companies, Global Foundries and Qualcomm, announced yesterday a $4 billion partnership to produce chips in the U.S. that would otherwise have gone overseas. Qualcomm is one of the world's largest buyers of chips. It's planning to increase its chip production by up to 50% over the next 5 years. These companies see what I see, that the future of the chip industry is going to be made in America. And for folks at home, there's a broader supply chain that makes these semiconductors that connect countless other small businesses and manufacturers. This law funds the entire semiconductor supply chain for research and development to key inputs like polysilicon manufactured by a factory in Hemlock, New York. Nearly 1/3 of all the chips in the world use polysilicon made in Hemlock. Imagine if we had more of these kinds of factories across the country. This law will make that a reality. There's analysis that says investment in the CHIPS and Science Act will create more than 1 million construction jobs alone over the next 6 years, building semiconductor factories in America. America invented the semiconductor, has been mentioned already, and this law brings it back home. It's in our economic interest, and it's in our national security interest to do so. Earlier this year, I went down to Lockheed's factory in Alabama, where they're making the Javelin missiles that we're supplying Ukraine to defend themselves against Putin's unprovoked war. And it's crystal clear we need these semiconductors, not only for those Javelin missiles, but also for weapon systems of the future that are going to be even more reliant on advanced chips. Unfortunately, we produce 0% of these advanced chips now. And China is trying to move way ahead of us and manufacture these sophisticated chips as well. It's no wonder the Chinese Communist Party actively lobbied U.S. business against this bill. The United States must lead the world in the production of these advanced chips. This law will do exactly that. And to be clear, this law is not handing out blank checks to companies. Today, I'm ordering my administration to be laser focused on the guardrails that will protect taxpayers' dollars. It means making sure that companies partner with community colleges and technical schools to offer training and apprenticeship programs and work with small and minority-owned businesses. They'll have the power to take back any federal funding if companies don't meet these commitments required by the bill. This includes requirements that companies building these semiconductor facilities pay Davis-Bacon prevailing wage to ensure the tens of thousands of new construction jobs are union jobs. We'll not allow companies to use these funds to buy back stock or issue dividends. And finally, this bill is about more than chips. It's about science as well. Decades ago, we used to invest 2% of our GDP in that led the world in everything. We led the world in everything from internet to the GPS. Today, we invest less than 1%. We used to rank #1 in the world in research and development. Now we rank #9. China was #8 decades ago. Now they are #2. And other countries are closing in fast. This law gets moving up once again. It authorizes funding to boost our research and development funding, closer to 1% of the GDP, the fastest single-year percentage increase in 70 years, and it's going to make a difference. This increased research and development funding is going to ensure the United States leads the world in the industries of the future, from quantum computing to artificial intelligence to advanced biotechnology, kinds of investments that will deliver vaccines for cancer cures, for HIV, invent the next big thing that hadn't even been imagined yet. A law that requirements that any company that receives federal research development will have to make that technology they're inventing here in America. That means we'll invest in America and invent in America and make it in America. We're going to make sure we include all of America, supporting entrepreneurs and technological hubs across America, including historic black colleges and universities, minority-serving institutions, tribal colleges. We're going to tap into our greatest competitive advantage, our diverse and talented workforce, urban, rural, suburban, and tribal. And people like Josh came up with this idea for portable electric car chargers 5 years ago in Buffalo, New York. And all the young people out there today who have an idea that spark imagination to solve a problem they see, to cure a disease they have, to dream to make the impossible possible. This law is for them. Let me close with this. Last month, I awarded Steve Jobs Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously. At every turn of his life, he dared to think differently, embodied that most of American questions. What next? The CHIPS and Science Act is going to inspire a whole new generation of Americans to answer that question. What next? Right now, as Bill can tell you, NASA has a mission going back to the moon, then to Mars, the sun, and beyond, capturing images of distant galaxies we could only once dream existed and we could never think we could see. The CHIPS and Science Act captures that magic here on Earth. It also builds on the progress we've made to rebuild America's with the historic infrastructure law that I signed last year that's going to modernize our roads, our bridges, and deliver clean water, high-speed internet for every American. It builds on another, one of my many top priorities, creation of a advanced research projects agency in health, for health, ARPA-H. It's going to transform how we detect, treat, cure diseases like Alzheimer's, diabetes, and cancer. And tomorrow, I'm signing the most significant law ever to help veterans suffering from exposure to toxins from burn pits. And soon, hope to be signing the Inflation Reduction Act into law that's going to lower the cost of health care and energy and make historic investments to tackle climate crisis. Once that law is signed, any senior by the first of the year, no matter how high if they're on Medicare, no matter how high their drug bills are, will never have to pay more than $2,000 a year. Just one specific example, beginning in January. There's a lot going to happen. And for all the division in our country, we're showing ourselves in the world that we can take on the biggest challenges. We can take on the special interest, and that democracy can deliver for the people of this country. That's why I'm confident that decades from now, people are going to look back at this week with all we've passed and all we've moved on, that we met the moment at this inflection point in history. A moment when we bet on ourselves, believed in ourselves, and recaptured the story, the spirit, and the soul of this nation. We are the United States of America, a singular place of possibilities. I'm not going to go sign the CHIPS and Science Act, and once again, I promise you, we're leading the world again for the next decades. Thank you. Okay, you ready? Got it?
Yes. Oh, it's slow.
All right.